And we're back. This is the last episode of season 2. Jeremy, where did these last few months go? It just feels like yesterday we're recording, the first episode of season 2 in February, and we were getting to know each other. I was brand new here at HQ, and now it's June. The sun is out. Summertime shy is here. I am, I'm in a complete different spot now. You're out in California.
That's right.
How did we get here?
I really don't know where the time went. I was hoping that you could probably tell me because, like you said, like stuff has changed since the last couple months. Like we were just recording our first episode, and now we're recording the last. And a bunch of people have gone through graduations, the start of summer. I'm ready for tanning because I feel like I need a little color. But yeah, it's crazy. This year is just going by faster than me with a basket of 30 wings, which I could really go for right now. I'm actually kind of hungry. It's lunchtime, isn't it?
It's 2 p.m. here, which means it is around lunchtime back there in California for you. Anyway.
It is, but I say, podcasts and wings is kind of like that other show, The Hot Ones, if you've ever seen it. But this isn't The Hot Ones. This is TG Talk, and we are your hosts, Jeremy Bellman
and Cody Delmendo. Today, we're going to show everyone. It is June, so it is, there's a lot of graduates. I run the social media, so if you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, you see that I've shared a bunch of brothers who have posted like graduation photos and stuff, and that's always awesome to see when you move on to that next part of your life. So
big congratulations again.
Congrats to everyone who graduated. It was obviously a very tough year for all the seniors across the realm, but so we're going to talk about a lot of different things related to your life after undergrad and all that good stuff.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm excited. But, before we get into all that fun stuff, I just want to give a shout out to last month's winner of the trivia question. So last month, May, was Mental Health Awareness Month. And we asked the question, what year did SAE officially partner with the JED Foundation, our mental health organization partner? The answer to that was 2013. So big congratulations to Matthew Chai from the University of New Haven, Connecticut, New Ada. Hashtag represent New Ada. You are getting your prize very shortly.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume that Jeremy slid in the answer to him. But, congrats to him. Our last episode, Jeremy was repping New Ada real hard with the jersey he was rocking. If you go back and watch the YouTube video. But congrats to Matthew. Again, I'm kind of behind on sending the swag out. I actually just got some new swag that I was given to send out to people for this. There's some really cool wallets with block letters on them. They are awesome. So Matthew and the last couple winners that we've had, if you haven't got anything, you look forward to getting those because they are really they're perfect for a TG.
If you don't send them out soon, Cody, I'll take them. All right.
Anyway, all right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get this intro started, and then we'll get the show started.
Let's do it.
Come sing to Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Epsilon, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Sigma Alpha, Alpha, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Sigma Alpha, Sigma Alpha.
Okay, our guest for today is a fellow staff member, good friend of mine, huge Cubs fan, I will say that much. And we always talk about Chicago baseball in the office. But he often radiates a lot of positive energy, and that's why we're having him on. He's also a huge Tennessee Volunteers fan. He might be the biggest Volunteers fan I've ever met in my entire life. Everyone, please welcome alumni coordinator Ryan Gibbons. as he slides into the
Oh, he slid in. I love that. It's a
So
great entrance, Ryan.
bad audio, great visual if you're on YouTube. Ryan, me and him are in the founders room right now. So this is the first TG Talk episode that we're recording like kind of in person. Like, unfortunately, Jeremy is in California right now. And so we're recording on Zoom still, but me and Ryan are in office since in June they allowed us all to come back. So like full time. So we're recording today's episode in person, me and him at least. So that's really exciting stuff, Jeremy. We wish you were here.
I'll be there soon. I know you really, really miss me dearly, don't you?
Just so dearly, man.
You can stay in California.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that. It's warm and I got it in and out of my disposal anytime I want.
It's pretty warm here, and you can definitely get a tanny. I've never heard it called that. The only time I've heard tanny is Ryan Tannehill.
Things are different out here in the West Coast,
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ryan, everyone already knows that obvious fact about you being a Tennessee Volunteers fan, but for those who have never really gotten a chance to know you or talk to you, we really want our audience to know you better. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you went to school, what you studied, how did you find your way being on staff, and what makes the Vols the greatest team of all time?
Well, I'll tackle that one first. I'm not going to sit here and feed people with lies. They're not the greatest team of all time in none of the sports that are played, except maybe underwater basketball even, and that's probably because nobody's heard of that. But I will say we have the best fan base on earth. So as bad as we are in a lot of sports, we still show up and we still show out, and we have a good time. Look no further than the fact that I've taken many new staffers who've moved up here to go watch Tennessee games and meet other people from Tennessee. And they always have glowing reviews. They even make donations to the University of Tennessee. Maybe twist their arm about it a little bit. So believe it or not, I did not go to the University of Tennessee. I went to Cookeville High School, small town right in between Nashville and Knoxville. I graduated there, and then I wanted to get out of town. Tennessee Tech was offering a good scholarship, couldn't pass it up. Was going to go there for a year and then transfer. Then my eyes were brightened to fraternities and more specifically SAE. Texted my older brother one day and he mentioned that he was in town and he knew a bunch of the SAEs and he was going to take me by the house. So I went by the house and, the rest is history. Of course, I didn't end up transferring. It didn't feel like high school. Of course, nothing was wrong with that. I just wanted a different experience and SAE provided that for me. So I graduated Tennessee Tech in 2016 with a bachelor's in public relations with a sports emphasis. For the longest time I wanted to do something in sports. Obviously not doing that as I'm here with you today, but who knows where it'll take me from here. But I ended up on staff actually because after I graduated, SAE sent out an email, soliciting job applications for coordinator of alumni development. And I read it, sounded interesting. Well, the thing that got me is a lot of the guys from the chapter blew me up, said, you'd be perfect for this. You need to apply. I was still uncertain. I'd never even been on an airplane, so I didn't know about moving to a city where I knew absolutely zero people. But I finally applied about 3 minutes before the deadline, which if you've met me, especially in college, it wouldn't shock you. Needless to say, they gave me an interview. They flew me up, and then they offered me the job on the spot. And it's funny we're doing this episode here today because I actually looked, and it was almost 5 years ago to the day that I actually sent in my cover letter to apply for the job. So pretty wild that it's been 5 years now.
Where did time go, right?
Yeah, 5 years. That's for your first job right out of college. I would say that is an elite first job out of college to not only get but actually want to stay at and build your career.
Yeah. I agree. I'm sure many other people are the same way, but you graduate with a lot of people and they say in the job, if they stay 2 years, that's pretty impressive. Just because, and I think, I don't know how the stat in front of me, but I think the stats say that most graduates stay at a job for a year or two before changing jobs a couple of times before they really settle in. So.
Oh yeah. Jeremy, is this when we want to discuss like kind of like our experiences as well? Because I feel like Ryan's is kind of like the exact opposite of ours.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, your experience has been incredible. I mean, it's big shoes to fill, I would say. Wouldn't you agree, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, so Ryan, his experience is completely different from mine because I graduated 6 years ago in May, and I was the person who was like, okay, I have to make money right away, or else I'm going to end up on the street. And not that I was really going to end up on the street, but like I just could not take moving back home. I could not go and live at home again, because just like the couple weeks of living at home, like during the breaks, during like Thanksgiving or Christmas, um, I would be ready to go back to school within a couple of days. So I knew that I was not going to want to be at home. So I remember I graduated in May of 2015, and then I applied to a bunch of jobs related to the field that I graduated with, which was a journalism degree. I went and did a couple interviews at these like small newspapers in these basically small towns, because I was told in college that, especially in my field, was you're gonna definitely start at the bottom unless you really like land that huge internship, or if you just know someone that can really land you something huge. Journalism is one of like the toughest fields in all of like just jobs. I don't know how else to really explain that. So my first job, I ended up only working there for 6 months. It was at this newspaper in this small town, about an hour and a half away from where I lived at the time. And I learned a lot about being an adult. And I also learned a lot of, I feel like I made a lot of mistakes that I learned from and now know going forward. I feel like I'm a good example for people who are kind of thinking the same way I am, and to like not make the same mistakes that I did. I think it's probably would have been beneficial if I had stayed home a little bit longer and job searched for the perfect job that I really wanted. And I probably I wouldn't have probably had wouldn't have as many jobs that I've had in the 6 years that I've been out of college. And that's not to say that having a lot of jobs in that time span is bad. It's more of just like trying to find the job that at least mentally, and just more so mentally, actually just mentally, that you want to like get up and go to every day. I think that's the biggest thing. And in the first couple of years of my life, that was kind of tough. So that I was basically like a general assignment reporter. So I was, reporting on, all these news stories in this little area that really no one outside of the area really cared about. I wasn't reporting on anything big that I genuinely cared about. And the reason that I didn't like the job was that I wasn't really interested in any of that area's news. And then I also, I don't know, I just didn't really feel welcomed into the area because no one knew who I was, and small towns are kind of like that. I don't know how else to really explain that. Ryan, you're from a small town. Like everyone knows who everyone is.
Yeah, there's lots of country songs about it. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, and like, it's just a little bit harder to fit in when you're kind of the new guy into the small town. And I was going through so many different things in my life at the time that I didn't really put that into the thought process of taking this job and all that. So, I feel like I learned a lot from like doing that. I wish that I wouldn't have done it now, but it is something that I guess I can always tell people. I hope that if you're listening to the show right now, like definitely don't do what I did. But I think that experience led me to eventually getting this job now here, at headquarters. And, at the very least, the job did help build my resume a little bit. So if there's any positive out of it, I think that's probably the biggest thing.
Jeremy, before you share, Cody, there's one point you hit on that I really like us to kind of focus on.
Yeah.
You mentioned looking for a job you wanted right out of college, or, kind of a dream job.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to say in a lot of the cases, maybe, and I want people to know in college, like, cause at least for me, you mentioned the small town thing. Growing up, you expect you're told, hey, you go to college, you'll know exactly what you want to do after college. That wasn't the case with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to know, if you're listening, if you don't know what you want to do in your life, hey, welcome to the party, because there's plenty of others out there. So I don't want you to worry about that. But that's why you take some of these jobs after you graduate, to find out what you like or what you don't like, in Cody's instance. So
right. That is a good point, because one of the things they did say in school, in the journalism department at Eastern Illinois, was, you're going to do a lot of jobs that you don't want to do. And that very first one was, I was over it after a couple months. And, I was lucky. The job after happened to be it was another reporter position, and it was more oriented in sports. I was covering high school sports for a year, and that was a lot better. It was in a much bigger area that was a lot more, my vibe, I guess you could say. So it did lead to something good. I just, I think the process is something that you can't take lightly, and being a lot more thorough with your decision making, I think, is my biggest thing there, because I could have taken a type of job like what I took that first time, and really just gone anywhere. And I took one that I was like, why did I do this? So yeah, no, just a really good learning experience for me at that point in my life. So Jeremy,
all experience,
go ahead.
I would say all experience is good experience, because you always learn something new, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
that's awesome. No, great share, Cody. I mean, I guess mine isn't as elaborate as yours, but during my senior year of school, when I was at University of New Haven, I was just sending out dozens of applications, desperate for that phenomenal first out of college job, like you mentioned. And being a communications major with a passion for film and television, I applied to a ton of movie and TV studios, both on the East Coast and back home in LA. And LA is known as the entertainment capital of the country. Exactly. Yeah. So out of all the applications I sent, I only heard back from maybe 2 or 3, and one that actually offered me a phone interview, which is probably my easiest interview, because they just asked me what are your favorite movies, and why do you like them? So I just got to talk about movies for 30 minutes. So it's pretty awesome. So this is for a tour guide at a movie studio, and I won't say the name for legal reasons. But after talking to that,
did you do something there? Are you hiding from them?
No, I was a tour guide there. I was getting there. So a week later, they said they really liked me. They hired me, and I started a month after graduation, which is probably the most fun job I ever had. I got to work on movie sets, meet celebrities, had some awesome coworkers who were all aspiring directors, producers, actors, actresses. It was so cool. Only part that sucked was the commute there, because in LA, we have a lot of traffic, and I live in the South Bay area of Los Angeles. So leaving your house 10 minutes early or late could be the difference between commuting for 50 minutes or an hour and a half. So that
did you live on the 405 then?
The 110.
The 110. I don't know roads. I just this is what I know about LA. This is what I know about LA and traffic. The 405 sucks. That's all I know.
Did you ever watch the Californian skit on SNL?
No,
that's basically what it's like.
Okay, I'll have to check that out then.
But yeah, so unfortunately the position was only seasonal. So after summer ended, I just went to go back went back to work at a small bookstore that my neighbor owned. So I still kept sending applications, hoping for something better. And then I saw an opening for coordinator of recruitment here at SAE, applied, flew me out, interviewed, got the position a week later. And to this day, I'm extremely thankful for that because my first full-time career out of college, and I have some incredible staff members by my side at all times. So shout out to you guys. And now I work in chapter development, but both positions I was in have taught me so much. And for that, I just can't wait to see what my future is going to look like here.
Yeah.
Actually, a fun fact for those of you on the podcast or watching, actually, it was one of the people that interviewed Jeremy. Didn't know it. They came up to me and asked me if I had some time. So I just kept Jeremy busy. He failed the question of what his favorite color is. Everybody knows it should be orange, but I gave him a pass on that one.
You asked every single person you talked to what their favorite color was, and it's always orange in your eyes?
That's my favorite color, so that should be their answer. And
why can't it be?
That's not how it works, Ryan. That's not how it works. I see that as a way to, joke around though. I see what you're doing there. I like that. So one thing I think you and Ryan both have in common, like Ryan said when he was in school, sports communication was like what he studied, and now he works here, which obviously it's not sports or communication. You're interested in like communication and film and stuff like that. Obviously, I mean, I guess doing this podcast has a little bit to do with that, but like outside of that, really doesn't have anything. So I just want to point out that, hey, like you guys both said, you like working here, you like where you're at in your lives right now. So sometimes even if you don't get that job that's related to the field that you thought you wanted in college, like, hey, sometimes you just kind of led down the right path. I think that's something that maybe a lot of college students who are now graduating don't have that thought process in their head right now.
Yeah, I mean, just because you have a piece of paper that says you are a specialist in this area doesn't mean you have to work in that area.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, I'll tell a story about one of my fraternity brothers. Once again, for legal reasons, I won't reveal it. But I can assure you, I still talk to him. He's not hiding from me, or I'm hiding from him or anything. So you can send the video right to him. But he went to school for 6 years to be a chemical engineer.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, we can all say 6 years is a good chunk of time. Engineering, usually a very nice profession, usually smiled upon. Everybody looks good upon it. Well, he moved away from our small town to go take an engineering job in a bigger city. Well, he stayed there a little over a year, and he decided it wasn't for him anymore. Not just the big city. He decided engineering completely was. Wow. He didn't like it. He tried it and he didn't like it. As much as I tried to persuade him to at least just change jobs, maybe it was the company, he didn't listen to me. So he went back to school he wants to be a doctor now. So once again, a lot more schools. Maybe he just wants to have a career in schooling. I don't know. But once again, I mean, you can always change. It's never too late. So.
Yeah. And if I could just say something, success can come literally at any age. So I just saw a clip from SNL yesterday where Leslie Jones, one of the comedians, talks about all these like celebrities and famous people at an early age still didn't know what they were doing, or were doing something completely different than what they do now. So for example, Oprah was a reporter at 23 years old and got fired. Imagine firing Oprah. And then Harrison Ford was a carpenter at 30, and then he auditioned for Han Solo in Star Wars. So, everyone here is running around trying to figure out like, oh, what am I going to do the rest of my life? But, you don't know who you are yet until you find that person. And even then, you can still discover something new, something that you like, something that you're really good at, something you're really passionate about. So it could come at any time.
I think you made a good point about like not knowing like who you are when you graduate. And like they kind of like, I feel like in college, I thought I knew who I was. Like I thought I learned so much about myself, and I did, but I really like now, like, so I'm 30 now. I feel like I finally learned like who I am like a couple years ago, finally. So like I think a lot of that has to come with, all the experiences as an adult that you go through, whether it's, moving to a new city for a new job, or, landing that big job wherever it's at. And you're there for a while, and you just kind of learn about like, okay, I like working here, and it's kind of made me who I am now, and like I'm comfortable and all that stuff. I think it all just kind of goes in together. So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
crazy. It's crazy to think about that, because I firmly believe that most college students think that they know everything now. Like I feel like they had like an epiphany like their junior year, like I don't know when, but it would just happen in their junior year, because they've been in school for a couple years, and they're now entering like, in your junior year, you're usually entering like your core classes of like your major, and you're diving into it. And if you love it, you're not going to change your major, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? Then sometimes it just doesn't work out like that, and you're kind of like left up like, what am I doing? And so, yeah, like I'm not trying to say that to scare the people listening, but at the same time, like, it's also okay if it's not.
Yeah,
So.
more than okay. I mean, Matthew McConaughey, and I'll mention this just because I'm reading his book right now. Also, a very good book. He and I, some people probably knew this already, but he was going to school to be a lawyer because that's what his family wanted him to do. So, I mean, that's another thing where sometimes it runs in the family. Well, he was afraid to even tell his dad when he decided that he wanted to do film school. But he brought up the courage to tell his dad one day, and his dad goes, "Is that what you want?" And he's like, "It is, more than anything." And his dad was happy for him. So, I mean, that's another thing. Don't be afraid to break out and do something, even if it's not what was expected of you or what was normal. So,
yeah. And on that same note, James Earl Jones, the guy who did Darth Vader, he went to medical school, become a doctor, said, "This isn't for me." Went to, I guess, like acting school, and now he's Darth Vader. And he also does the voice of, "This is CNN." That voice. Sorry, that was a bad impression, but yeah, but yeah, it's I totally agree with you guys. So, kind of on that, that same topic, what do you think were some of the challenges that you wish you might have known a little earlier prior to graduating?
Ryan, you want to go first?
I mean, the first one that comes to my mind isn't really academic related, but as I mentioned before, I moved up to the city where I knew no one. And my boss who hired me didn't have any familiarity with the Chicago area either. He was living in Texas. So, I mean, he couldn't really offer me many tips. Well, he didn't really connect with anybody either. So I actually, for my first year, I lived with completely random people. I met on an app.
As a lot of people,
This app probably doesn't even exist anymore. You swiped on
I've heard of it.
houses.
Yeah. I've heard of that.
Well, I used it. It would turn out not great. I'm sure they have lots of fairy tales where you room with two people and they're just your best friends for the rest of your life, best man at the wedding. Didn't happen for me. So get help, even if it's not your boss or somebody who hired you, or you don't know anybody in the area. Ask your boss to put you in touch with somebody in the area who does know the area. And because another thing is, I wanted to be close to the office. Well, the house that I thought was close to the office was 5 miles away. Didn't have a car. There was no public transportation nearby. I mean, for my first few months on office, I was walking to and from the office 5 miles each way.
Oh, man.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, it was a very miserable year. And it's not at all what I wanted. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't use fishy apps. That's
And invest in a bike. That way you don't have to walk 5 miles.
Gosh.
I was born with these 2 legs.
I'm saying, like, were your legs like tree trunks that summer or what?
Oh yeah, still are.
I guess one of my biggest challenges, and I guess I kind of touched on it earlier, was just, not really going through the process of trying to find, like, and you're not going to find the perfect job right out of college, but like just finding a job that you think that you will be able to mesh with well, and in an area that you feel like you'll be comfortable in. I guess my biggest challenge was just like not being comfortable. Like, just, I feel like it's hard to be comfortable when you're not in a space where you've never been. So I'm not saying, hey, if you're like where Ryan's from and he moves to Chicago, the like 3rd biggest city in the world, like that's a big like that's a big like change for him. And the fact that he's actually stuck around for another like what 5-6 years now is actually really kind of insane and impressive at the same time. But like, I guess again, just having that comfortability was probably my biggest challenge. But if you can kind of like what Ryan said, find people that can help, I think, that's one step. And then another step is just kind of embracing it at the same time. Like Ryan's example or his situation was so much more easier to relate to for a lot of people, I think, because so many people are leaving, their small suburb home or small town in the middle of nowhere to go to places like New York, Chicago, LA.
Nobody's going to LA.
I mean, except for Jeremy.
Bro.
Everybody's leaving LA.
But like they're going to like the big cities, that's where there's so much opportunity and you got the dreams and all that good stuff. And people want to like live their life when they're young. I get it. I totally get it. And, I think finding that line of just comfortability is, I think that would be my advice of someone who's, if they're moving somewhere and it's just not comfortable, it's like not in their area of expertise, like just do whatever you can to figure that out and feel good, because that like having that will then change your entire outlook, I think, moving forward.
Yeah, I guess biggest thing that I wish I would have known earlier is just honestly patience. Like patience is such a huge factor because I was getting worried, stressed, frustrated when I would send out all these dozen applications and wouldn't hear back for like weeks or months. I'm like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, I don't know. And then I get this, and I'm like, everything just worked out great. And I have a little quote at the end I would love to share. But yeah, honestly, just being patient, not giving up is like the one thing that I wish I would have known earlier prior to graduating from school.
Yeah. It is cliche, but at the same time, it is true.
Hey, you hit on one point there is, me, like I said, it's a small town Tennessee, so I thought everybody, had to reply back. It was just common courtesy. They don't have to tell you no. They can just ignore it. They don't have to. And some companies do that. Another piece of advice I heard the other day was you can't turn down a job you don't have, so apply. It doesn't hurt to apply. So
that's how I felt when I applied for this job after during the pandemic, I was, jobless for 7-8 months, somewhere around there. And I see this pop up on Indeed and I'm like, there's going to be a ton of people applying for this job. And it turns out there really wasn't. So I was I applied, and like, here I am doing this podcast with you guys, having a great time and go to the LMT every day for work. That's awesome. I
and then
ask for a better job.
You guys touched on another point. We're touching on a bunch of points right now. But you guys said like you guys moved from like small town to big city, right? Well, a lot of people have these dream jobs and they apply to a lot of desirable locations, Chicago, New York, LA, Florida, wherever. But they are missing, the point that they could also apply for the same job and maybe least desirable locations like small towns or random states like Arkansas or whatever. Like they could apply there, get their foot in, and then they could internally apply to another city that they would actually like to go to, So like start off in humble beginnings, work your way up to the top.
Yeah. I think what you're saying is basically you're not going to unless you absolutely know the right people and have that in, like a lot of people who are already in the public eye do, you're just not going to find like the perfect job day one. So
yeah,
I feel like that's a good point to make. And we all have to like build up, just keep building the resume.
So. And speaking of resume, this is another discussion I wanted to have. Just, what are some of the biggest things that you should include? That way you can make yourself stand out. So, Ryan, you're older than the both of us. So can you give us like some tips on how to?
No.
Come on, come
Sorry.
on.
I'm still 28, sir. Cody is 30.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're older.
Yeah.
Okay, I take
I
that
actually
back.
didn't know how old Ryan was, so this is news to me. So I was gonna let you keep going.
I wasn't.
Okay. Well, what are some things that you could do to make your resume or yourself stand out when applying for jobs?
So I'm gonna go 2 points here, and I'm not gonna pretend to be an expert at either. Resumes, one of my big things is I make sure I have somebody I know who's more qualified in putting those together, looks at them more, something like that. I make sure I have 1 or 2 people that is willing to look at them, because I could have missed something. And that's good practice for anything you're working on. There's always somebody sees something different. But I always make sure somebody looks at my stuff after I put it together, edit it or whatever. That way I can get someone else's feedback. Maybe they have a nicer sounding word than I do that makes me sound like a magician or something. I don't know. But one of the things, and people have differing opinions on these. Cover letters. In my opinion, that's a way to stand out instead of just going off the normal. I'm so and so. I'm writing today to show interest in this position. I think I'd be a great fit. I look forward to talking to you soon. I'll throw something in there, more personal, and I'll lead with that as like a story to, get their attention. I got to interview this guy. Even if I'm not going to hire him, I at least need to hear the rest of the story, or, whatever it is. And, they may never read the cover letter, but it doesn't hurt to, make it different.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think to go off that point with, letting people look at it, you can utilize like the resume builders that are on campus. They're probably still there even now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I had someone basically craft mine together, and to this day, I still have it set up like they got it set up for me. Yeah. Obviously I've made changes to it because I've had other jobs and stuff, but it's still in like the same format. And
and those are free on most, I think probably every campus.
I got mine for free on campus. I would hope that it is free. You go to school to get a job, right? I feel like that's a free thing. If it's not, I don't know.
I was about to say, like, career development centers on campus, huge lifesavers. Like, they helped me get maybe 3 of the jobs that I've had, including this one. Like, the way that they built my resume, how to format a proper cover letter, like, they are incredible resources that not a lot of people take advantage of. So I highly, highly encourage people to go there.
Yeah, and they're they'll, like on mine, for example, they'd add some, they would put what position I had at this job, and then add 3 or 4 or 5 bullet points of what I did there. And I would tell them in short what it was. And then they would make it sound so immaculate. Not that it wasn't, but they have a way with, just words and stuff. I don't know how else to say it. They were a huge help in helping
you
me.
Yeah, they bought lots of coffee, and people made it sound way more important than that.
Essentially. Yeah. Not to put down all the things I did in school to build my resume, but they did make it seem very impressive. So, they in full, those career development centers are huge.
Yeah, and then kind of on that same subject, other than a resume, how do you present yourself? So, in the past year, we used a lot of virtual online tools. So now we have all these search engines, like you said, Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn. It's all about creating a brand and image for yourself. So what would be the best way to go about that?
That's interesting. I get my experience with my interview with SAE, obviously, was last year, so it was virtual. It was weird. I wore a shirt and tie, but wore shorts, slacks, because no one saw my legs, so it was kind of weird, but it was definitely different virtually than it was in person. And that's why to this day, I kind of feel kind of lucky I got the job, because they didn't ask me to come in to do any other interviews or anything like that. They liked what they saw in the virtual interview, which again is so interesting to me. In some places are different. Obviously, they might want to meet someone face to face. But yeah, Ryan, I'm kind of stumbled, man. Like, what do you got on this?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm terrible at LinkedIn.
Do you have a LinkedIn account?
I have one. The only time I can be honest, I really go on there is if someone wants to connect with me. I'll just go click. I can't remember my password or anything. It's just remembered on there, and I'll accept. And that's it. I mean, I don't look at the feed. I don't post anything ever. I think I did when I got a promotion here. I did update that, but I mean, other than that, I need to listen to the podcast myself for some tips on that, I guess.
I will say this, that LinkedIn is so much more bigger than when me and Ryan were in school, for sure. Like I took a class in college where they asked us to create a LinkedIn account. That's literally why I have my LinkedIn account.
Same
here. But at the time, LinkedIn still wasn't big. I didn't even know how to present myself on LinkedIn. I remember there were times on LinkedIn I would see my own friends posting things that I would see them post on like Facebook, on LinkedIn, which obviously LinkedIn is so much different from any other social media platform. I don't need to explain why. Everyone knows that LinkedIn is like your career, like profile.
We all know someone who uses all the social media platforms the same. We all know someone who does that.
That is true, though.
Yes, we do.
But now for the undergrads now, like LinkedIn is so huge. I would hope that they really had at least not just created an account in college, but started posting like some of their accomplishments or awards that they got in college, if they won anything, or, if they, if they got an internship and posted some things from their internship that they did. I would hope that they would do that at this point in time, because LinkedIn has been around for so long that I feel like everyone has kind of learned what LinkedIn is and how you quote unquote build your brand on there. What do you think about that, Jeremy?
Yeah, no, the point I was trying to get at is just presenting yourself in the best possible way to the public eye. Because, they always say, like, when you apply somewhere and employers will give you an interview, they'll usually Google you first, and they'll see like what first like pops up, and it'll most likely be your social media, your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and they want to see like what kind of person is this guy or woman or whatever. So you want to make sure that you don't have videos of you, partying.
I imagine most people don't have that on their LinkedIn, but the other social medias, they probably do. I mean, I have an from when we got the interview up here, one of the guys that I knew who was my chapter development person at the time when I was an undergrad, he actually texted me the night before my interview and said, "Hey man, I'm only doing this because I like you. But you should change your profile picture." And I didn't think anything of it. No. And I had a picture of me and one of my fraternity brothers at a Preds game, but we had an adult soda in our hands. It wasn't even crazy. I mean, some people may not even think of that as, oh, that's not bad. But he's like, it probably just wouldn't give the best impression of you going to apply for especially a fraternity job. So I changed it right away. And to this day, I lost the photo. I can't even find it. So I am a little salty about that because it was a good photo. I looked good. But anyways.
Presenting yourself, like, obviously you don't want to have alcohol in your Facebook profile photo, or, you don't want videos in your account of you doing crazy stuff. Like, you definitely don't want any of that. I think, though, in terms of like building your own brand of like who you are for a potential employer, I think it kind of just goes back to like what I was describing about what kids should be doing on LinkedIn now. Like, I think about it. I honestly think about it all the time. It's like, man, I wish I would have done more on LinkedIn when I was in college, because it just would have been able to display my resume a lot more, because employers are really using, or they're going to people's LinkedIn so much more. Now, I've applied for so many jobs. where they ask for your resume, but they're also asking for your LinkedIn account as well. So I really hope if you're listening, if you've taken advantage of what LinkedIn is, like if you haven't, start doing it now, because and I feel like in another 5 or 10 years, like we might not even be making resumes anymore. Like they'll be just looking at our LinkedIn's, and then I'm going to have to create a LinkedIn account for like one of my older family members. And that's going to be a wild ride, man.
Better than creating one of them a Snapchat.
Yeah.
Or a Facebook. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started. But
What, they gotta play their Farmville.
is that still around?
I don't know.
I would assume. I should ask my mom. My mom played Farmville.
My mom was the queen of Farmville.
Oh, my mom played Farmville so much. Like she was like literally addicted to it. She would play it every night. I'd come home from whatever it was, and she's on the computer playing Farmville.
My mom would leave events early because she had to get home to water her plants. not real plants. Even that would be a woof excuse, but imaginary plants. Now try to run that one by.
Yeah. Well, no, you guys all both made some great points, but just one more thing that I would like to share based on my experience and my friends is, if you haven't already, start creating a professional portfolio as well. Like all your projects, school assignments that are good, essays, photos you've taken, any art you've created, save it all in one place, because you never know when it might come into play one day. So if you just go to like one of those like free like website builders like Wix or WordPress, or Cody, you might know some. If you just use those templates, add some photos of all your internships, job experience, or your projects and work that you've done, like you can attach links to job applications now, so employers can see that as well.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Squarespace is another good good tool to use as well. I think with that point, for people in my field, like they might, take a job that's not related to communications or journalism or whatever, but there's always that side hustle that they can have. Like so many people I know that aren't even in the field that I'm in are doing different types of side hustles too. So if you don't get that job that you want right out of school, or maybe you're 3-4 years out of college, and you still have an aspirations for something that you want to do, but like right now the job you have is good and it's paying the bills and stuff, but you still have that passion. Like there's nothing wrong with if you can find a way to make something related to it, your side hustle, throw it on the resume, because honestly, that's what kind of got me this job too. Last year, I started writing for a website, like an upcoming Chicago sports website that, I wasn't getting paid anything to do on it. And I lost my job in March, and, we all went into quarantine, and, our mental health was rough, and like, I just wanted something to do at the time. And then it turned into something really kind of fun and huge. And I've made a lot of friends, and like, I put it on my resume, and I genuinely feel like it helped me get this job I have now. So, it's kind of like one of those side hustle things that I do that, it just helps build your career. So again, I'm using communications, journalism, writing, stuff like that as an example, but there's all kinds of different industries out there where you can do something on the side to, help build your, your resume, your career. And I think the grind is it's a real thing, man. You just keep going, because I think that's just what adulthood is, man. You just grind every single day, and you just try to live your life the best you can.
It's like I said,
LIVIN, living.
Living.
Like I said, all the experience is good experience, right?
Right.
Well, like I said, this was, great information, great tips. I hope our audience is learning a lot from this. But now at Ryan, a big reason why we brought you on here is to see what SAE can offer all the, seniors that graduated, or all the current alumni. What are some programs and incentives that SAE offers?
So I think, I'll be frank here. We don't do what we set out to do. I don't know about you guys when you're going through recruitment, but one of the biggest things when you're being rushed to SAE is, we're gonna help you network and have a career after graduation and stuff. Some chapters do it really well, some don't, but nationally, we don't do the best we can. That's for sure. So we're hopefully working on getting some actual better resume tips, and you can always reach out to your own alums for that. They're more than happy to help as long as you have the alumni base. If you don't, reach out to me. I'm happy to help. So you use them. They may have networks, internships, all that stuff. A lot of the chapters do that already, but if you're not, just reach out, and I'm sure the alums would be more than happy to help you guys out with that. But one of the biggest things that I did want to emphasize was use the alumni associations. For instance, and not, it doesn't have to just be SAE. I would definitely want you involved in that as well, but it could be your university. A lot of universities have alumni associations as well. So, for instance, when I moved to Chicago, like I said, I didn't know anybody. First year here, I didn't do anything but walk to and from work. So that was a year in Chicago down the drain. But I finally decided, I wanted to go. I Googled it. Where can I watch a Tennessee Vols bar in Chicago? And it's going back to the Vols at some point. And Google popped up and it said, Tennessee Chicago Alumni Association, they watch here. So I went and watched the game and met tons of people, and now I'm on the board as the social chair. That's why I drag people down to watch the games. But you get to meet a lot of people that way. And SA is the same way. You just Google, or reach out to me, or, ask your province Archon, any of those people. But that's one of the best ways to not only just make friends and brothers in the area and get to know people. It's also the best way to network, meet people that are in job fields that you're interested in or could be interested in. A lot of the groups have, luncheons, and I know it's harder for younger guys, especially to go to take off to go to, hour and a half lunch or whatever. But one of the biggest things that came out of the COVID was so many more people doing things virtually, that you can reach out and you can have a Zoom call with someone who, you met through the Alumni Association or, whatnot. But that's one of the biggest tools I think that fraternities and sororities offer. And I think that more people need to utilize it. And I don't think we push it enough. But that's one of the biggest emphasis and one of the biggest encouragements for me.
That's what everything he just said is such a good point, because to be honest, like when I graduated, I didn't think about any of that. I honestly thought SAE was behind me, is and a lot of that is on me for not really looking into it. But then also I feel like right now we are helping undergrads that are graduating, with that process. So, I think, getting involved with alumni associations is a huge thing. And I wrote an article about the Phoenix Area Alumni Association like a month and a half ago, and it's gotten huge, and it's like a big thing down there in Arizona. That's just one little area, but they're like really building. They have a lot of different types of people. And there's alumni associations all across the country. So.
Yeah. And one of the big things is update your contact information. I'm not a mind reader. I can't tell that you moved from Cookeville, Tennessee to Chicago unless you update your information or reach out to someone. There's way too many of SAEs everywhere. I wouldn't be able to keep up or know. Reach out to us. We'll absolutely get you engaged somehow or another, introduce you to someone. Even if there's not an official alumni association, we have alumni all over that are more than happy to go grab a coffee or look over your resume or, just introduce you to other people in town. So
yeah, exactly. I know. And not only do you have over 13,000 living brothers across the country, but you have 13,000 people that can connect you to a possible career. I mean, heck, some might even be hiring. So you want to, brush up on your networking, your communication, professional skills, really connect with these alumni. They can set you up for the job that you've been looking for.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly, man.
That's awesome. Well, I don't want this to run too long, but just to kind of wrap things up, this question goes out for everyone. But is there any advice that you would give your past self or younger self, knowing what you know now about life after college?
Ryan's face is, he's just like, dang.
Okay, well, I can go first. So
Yeah, go ahead.
So during my last semester, it was also the end of two of my favorite nerd fandoms, which was the final season of Game of Thrones, which we don't really talk about, and then a month later was Avengers Endgame. If you guys are both Marvel fans, I don't know. But there's a quote in a movie that Iron Man says, Tony Stark, may he rest in peace, that says, "Part of the journey is the end. What am I even tripping for? Everything's going to work out exactly the way it's supposed to." And that line has really resonated with me because sometimes the things we want in life aren't always what is meant for us. So, like we've discussed earlier, we've applied to a lot of places. Sometimes we didn't really get them. And then I came across SAE, and I look at where I am now and think to myself, I wouldn't change a thing, because not everything lasts forever. We don't always get what we want, but in the end, it all works out exactly the way it's supposed to for us.
Yeah. No, that's the
Jeremy, by the way, you completely ruined that movie if people hadn't seen it yet. You're supposed to say spoiler.
It's been out for 2 years.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
You got to say spoiler. I think that's in the law.
It's been out for 2 years. I think people know by now. If you're a fan, you should know by now.
Well, maybe somebody's not a fan yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I guess, the point you really made about, some things just aren't meant for you. I think that kind of resonates with me. When I was in college, I was like, I'm going to be a beat reporter for the Chicago Bulls. I don't know why. I think it's probably because the Bulls were good when I was in college. And I was like, I wanted to, I didn't care what media outlet it was in Chicago. That I wanted to cover the Bulls. I wanted to cover Derrick Rose, and I wanted to, follow the rest of his career once I got out of school. And I thought that I was going to be able to do that within the first 5 years out of school. And I got nowhere near that. And it's not that I gave up on it. I just realized just how tough it is to get into that big of a market in the industry that I worked in. And I realized that working in journalism is very, very time consuming, and you don't really have a life. And I realized that I wanted to have a life, and I wanted to do more than just work like 24/7. So, I guess I would like to tell my past self that, you can have those aspirations, but also think about all the other things outside of work too. So, and like where you want to live, and like, where you want to, or who you want to be, and, all that good stuff. I guess that's the best way I can answer the question.
I'm pretty stumped on it, but I mean, I would just, I kind of hit on this earlier. It's okay to not have it figured out.
Yeah.
It's okay. Not just career wise. It's okay to not know, where you want to live the rest of your life. It's okay not to, and this may be more of my generation thing, but it's okay to not be married and have kids at 25. I mean, it's okay. Everybody goes at their own pace and everybody lives their own life, and there's nothing wrong with it. So don't be so hard on yourself, and don't judge yourself just because you're not where someone else's expectations are. Just because a road is less traveled doesn't mean there's not still traffic. So
yeah. There's people who might have the job that they want, but the rest of the aspects of their life aren't going well because maybe they invested so much into their career. So that's another
great point. I mean, and if you do get on that career early, it's great. It's great to put a lot into your career, but don't make it your whole life.
Yeah,
there is other parts out there, and you only live once.
Exactly.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah. Well, you gotta live. You gotta live in the moment, because when you're old like Cody, not you, Ryan, you're gonna look back at those moments, like when you're, in college or wherever you are in life, and you're going to look back on those with a deeper appreciation than what you feel in the moment, because you maybe didn't appreciate it at the time. But you should definitely live in a moment anywhere you are, because this entire episode we've been talking about careers, prepping for life after college. And while all that is important, there's always a time for both business and fun.
Yeah. No, yeah, you summed it up, and I think you hit it perfectly there, Jeremy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, I don't want to take up too much time, but Ryan, thank you so much again for being here and imparting your wisdom of career success and incentives for, alumni and seniors. Who better to hear it from than a manager of alumni engagement himself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Thanks for having me,
appreciate it.
guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully, if anything, hopefully I just helped someone, whether it was do the right thing or not do the wrong thing.
The only thing I took from you is that the Vols aren't the greatest team, right?
Just the most fun team.
Have fun. That's all you can ask for is to have fun, right?
There
Yeah,
you go.
thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. Take care.
Okay, Jeremy. Before we get out of here, it is our favorite time, right? It's the favorite part of the entire show, right? It's
What
the
is it?
question.
Is it lunchtime?
Well, as much as I love lunchtime, in this particular moment, it is definitely the trivia question. So again, thanks to Matthew Chai for answering the question last month for the mental health episode. So do you want to go ahead and read off the one for the month of June?
Oh yeah. Well, how could I even forget? So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but June is Men's Health Awareness Month. Did you know that?
I actually did know that. You told me that yesterday when we were preparing for this interview.
Yep, it is. And one of SAE's national partners is the Movember Foundation that raises awareness to men's physical and mental health. It's a great organization. I'm sure you're aware of the Movember Challenge that they have in the fall.
Oh yeah, I've seen some really good stashes in November, man.
Yeah, I mean the one behind you, there's Job Web Kerr. I mean he can, pull it off. I'm not sure. Can you pull off a mustache? I've never seen you with one.
So fun fact, in quarantine last year on my birthday, because I turned 29 last year, and we were in quarantine. Obviously, the world was just in shambles with everything going on. I didn't shave for like 2 months, and my girlfriend finally she said, "Okay, I can't take this anymore. You're gonna need to shave." And to just kind of like be that to be like a rebel, like to rebel, I guess. I shaved everything except for the stash. So I had like this thick. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I have black hair. So if you're listening to the podcast version, you don't know what I look like. But I I just had this like really thick. Really, I guess you could call it like a really thick, dirty stash, just right above my lip. I think I kept it for like a week until she was just like, "All right, this joke is over." Yeah,
For
it was fun for a bit, but it's definitely not me though. We were in quarantine, stuck at home. I wasn't seeing anyone, so I was just like, I'm gonna walk around with the stash for a week.
For those of you listening, if you want to see Cody post his pic on the Instagram, let us know in the DMs.
Now,
if
that actually happens, I have some really wild photos in my camera roll for people who actually want to see that. So
let's do it. Okay, so speaking of, Movember, one chapter in the country went above and beyond with raising donations for Movember. In 2019, they actually raised over $100,000 in worth of donations, which brings me to my question: which chapter raised $100,000 in donations for Movember in 2019, and what university was it? And by now you should know the rules to win, but it's always good to get a refresher. So Cody, would you do the honors of explaining it again?
Yeah, so you just if you know the answer, just DM our Instagram, our Twitter, or our Facebook account. I will be honest, I check our Instagram more than anything because that's where every chapter has an account. So you can follow us on Instagram if you don't, at Sigma Alpha Epsilon. SAE 1856 on Twitter, and then if you just search Sigma Alpha Epsilon on Facebook, I'm sure our account's the first one that pops up. I think it's facebook.com/SAE fraternity if you want to put in the URL. There you can send the DM on there. But like I said, I check our Instagram much more frequently. And that's where we've got most of our answers as well. So,
Mhm.
I forgot to mention, you can also email us. It's communications@sae.net. Some people have actually done that too. So,
Mhm.
just make sure in the subject line to mention, TG Talk trivia question answer or something like that. Because one guy did that a while back, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And I don't remember, his subject line was just empty. I think he didn't even put anything in the subject line. So it took me a minute to like realize. But
It's
yeah,
like
it's pretty simple.
it's like here's the answer. Give me my price. Like for what?
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about, bro?
That's awesome. All right. Well, our time is coming to an end, but that does not mean that TG Talk is going to end. Therefore, be sure to tune in next time for another great episode of TG Talk. Again, we have been your host, Jeremy.
And I'm Cody. Again, we have, this is the end of season 2. Season 3 starts in July. It's going to feature I believe he helped build the SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Whenever you fly into LAX, it's the big white stadium that they just built out there. The guy who is behind the building of it, he is our guest on our next episode coming up in July. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, Jeremy, anything else?
No, thanks for listening. This has been a great season. I've been so happy to work on this with you, Cody. You have been a great co-host. Thanks again to your audience for supporting us and answering the trivia questions. We can't wait to see where the future of TG Talk goes.